Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
From makeshift studios deep in the heart of stately Maine Manor, this is the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show, and I am your host, Joey Harris. You can follow the show on Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. You can email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. And before we get started today, folks, I just wanted to send out condolences to the friends and family and fans of Dave Hebner, longtime referee and wrestling official, who passed away right before I recorded this, so our condolences go out to his loved ones. Today we look at Starrcade 91 from WCW. Starrcade 91 Battle Bowl, the Lethal Lottery, was shown on pay-per-view on December the 29th, 1991 from the Norfolk Scope in Norfolk, Virginia. There were 9,000 in attendance. We start out with our intro. Jim Ross welcomes us to Battle Bowl and Starrcade. He and Tony Schiavone are the announcers for the evening. They talk about the Lethal Lottery and the Battle Bowl concept. They then throw it to Eric Bischoff. All of the wrestlers are then shown on the stage. Bischoff then introduces Missy Hyatt and Battle Bowl Commissioner Magnum TA. Magnum gets a fantastic reception being from Norfolk. They then draw the first team. Michael Hayes and Tracy Smothers versus Marcus Alexander Bagwell and Jimmy Garvin. Freebirds on opposite teams. Bagwell and Smothers start. They face each other in the ring. Smothers pushes Bagwell. Bagwell pushes back. They lock up. Bagwell with a side headlock. Smothers pushes off. Bagwell with a shoulder block. Smothers backs away. Fans antagonizing Smothers with the chop. The crowd chants DDT. They lock up again. Bagwell with an arm drag. Smothers complaining to referee Mike Atkins that Bagwell pulled his tights. They circle each other. They lock up. Smothers with a hammerlock. Bagwell with a takedown, and Smothers complains to Atkins again. Smothers taunting Hayes in the corner. A Michael chant goes out. Smothers with a waistlock go behind. Bagwell reverses the move. Smothers with a back elbow to break the hold. Smothers with a shoulder block. Smothers with a run, and Bagwell with the leapfrog. Bagwell with a hip lock and a drop kick to Smothers. Then an arm drag to Smothers, and Smothers backs away from Bagwell. Smothers then says he wants Garvin. Garvin tagged in. Smothers making fun of Garvin. A DDT chant goes out again. Garvin struts when he gets in. Smothers attacks him from behind. Smothers with a side headlock. Garvin pushes off. Drop downs and leapfrogs by Garvin to avoid Smothers. Garvin with a hip toss to Smothers. Garvin with a drop kick. Smothers out to the apron. Garvin with a running kick to the face knocks Smothers to the floor. The crowd cheers wildly. Hayes goes down to check on Smothers as another DDT chant goes out. Back in the ring, they shake hands and Smothers goes to kick Garvin in the stomach, but Garvin catches his leg. Garvin with an atomic drop that knocks Smothers back outside the ring again. He lands on his back and audibly says, "Oh shit." Smothers gets back in the ring and they lock up again. Garvin with a wrist lock and Bagwell tag back in. Garvin keeps the wrist lock on, allowing Bagwell to hit a double axe handle off the top rope. Bagwell picks the wrist lock up. Smothers with a knee to the stomach to break the hold. Smothers with a knee to the face to knock Bagwell down. Smothers runs Bagwell into the turnbuckle and Hayes finally tagged in. He chops Bagwell. Hayes with an Irish whip and a back elbow. Hayes then does some strutting. Hayes with an armbar on Bagwell. Bagwell with a reversal and an armbar takeover to Hayes. Hayes with a counter to get Bagwell down with a drop toe hold into an armbar. Hayes with a wrist lock and a forearm to Bagwell's arm. A series of forearms to Bagwell and Smothers tag back in. He kicks Bagwell in the stomach. Smothers with a wrist lock. Bagwell with a reversal. He gets Smothers down to the ground and drops a leg on the wrist. He gets Smothers in an armbar. Smothers drives back to a corner to break the hold. Smothers then drives his shoulder into Bagwell's midsection. He does it a couple of times and punches Bagwell. Bagwell gets out of the corner. Bagwell rushes Smothers, who catches Bagwell with a knee to the stomach. Bagwell reverses an Irish whip and gets an arm drag on Smothers. A Tracy Sucks chant goes out. They lock up again. Smothers with a knee to the midsection. Smothers picks Bagwell up, but Bagwell slips behind Smothers and scoop slams him. Smothers backs away and Garvin tagged in. Smothers jumps over and tags Hayes in, and the two Freebirds meet for the first time. Garvin ready for Hayes, who reluctantly gets in. They shake hands. They lock up and then break. They circle each other again. Another lock up. Hayes shoves Garvin off. Another lock up, and they make their way to the ropes. Break clean. Fans clapping as they circle each other again. Another lock up. Back to the ropes as another Tracy Sucks chant goes out. Hayes starts to break clean, then arm drags Garvin off of the ropes. They cautiously circle each other. Another lock up and Garvin with an arm drag. Garvin then does some strutting. Hayes with a rolling cradle for a 2 count. They lock up again and Garvin with a side headlock takeover. Hayes counters with a head scissors. Both men get back to their feet. They then both do some strutting and Bagwell and Smothers both tag back in. The crowd gives the Freebirds a round of applause. Smothers with a kick to the stomach of Bagwell. Smothers with a forearm. Smothers with a back kick to Bagwell. He then scoop slams Bagwell. Smothers then goes to drop an elbow on Bagwell, who moves at the last second. Garvin tagged in. He knocks Smothers down with a punch. Garvin with an Irish whip and a backdrop. Garvin runs the ropes and hits Smothers with a running forearm. Bagwell tagged back in and hits Smothers with a top rope cross body. He gets a 2 count. Bagwell jumps up and punches Hayes in the corner. Hayes comes in and punches Bagwell. All 4 men in now. Hayes turns around and accidentally hits Garvin. The Freebirds are arguing and the referee tries to get them out as Smothers scoop slams Bagwell. Smothers goes up top for a reverse crossbody, but Bagwell gets his knees up. Bagwell gets a fisherman's suplex to pin Smothers. The Freebirds are still arguing. Bagwell and Garvin are announced as the winners, and the Freebirds make up by shaking hands and hugging. Jim and Tony talk about the last match. Eric, Magnum, and Missy draw the next match. Steve Austin and Rick Rude versus Van Hammer and Big Josh. Dangerous Alliance members teaming up here. It is a little confusing as they show both locker rooms for reaction, but they must not be able to hear anything because they just stand there. Austin and Hammer start. They lock up. Hammer pushes off. They lock up again. Back to the corner. Austin finally breaks. They lock up again. Hammer with a scoop slam. They go to lock up again and Austin kicks Hammer in the stomach. Austin with a series of forearms to Hammer's back. Austin with an Irish whip but drops his head early and Hammer kicks him in the face. Austin comes back with a kick of his own. Hammer blocks 2 suplex attempts and hits a suplex of his own. He gets a 2 count. Austin with a drop toe hold into a front face lock on Hammer. Hammer reverses it into a hammer lock. Hammer drops a knee on Austin. Austin gets to his feet. Austin with 3 snapmares. Hammer reverses a corner whip. Austin moves on the charge and hits Hammer with the shot to the stomach. Austin with a series of shots. Austin with another snapmare and Rude tagged in. Rude with a kick to the midsection. Rude with an Irish whip and a clothesline. Rude then does his gyrations to taunt the crowd. Rude with a knee to Hammer. Rude with a forearm to Hammer. Back and forth with right hands in the middle of the ring. Hammer with a shot and Rude rakes the eyes. Rude with an Irish whip and a knee to Hammer in the stomach. Rude puts his boot into Hammer's back and tags Austin back in. Austin with a short clothesline. Austin with a gut wrench suplex. Rude tagged back in. Rude with a forearm as some fans try to get a Hammer chant going. Rude with some forearm shots to Hammer's back. Rude with a front face lock. Hammer trying to push his way to the corner to tag Josh in. Josh then tagged in. Josh with a couple of left hands to Rude and an Irish whip and a power slam. He then does the log roll move on Rude's stomach. Doesn't hurt Rude at all. He gets up and taunts Josh, who hits Rude in the stomach several times to no effect. Josh with a clothesline to knock Rude down. He gets a 2 count. Another clothesline and another 2 count for Josh. Austin comes in and Josh catches him with a clothesline. Josh runs Rude and Austin's heads together. The crowd gets fired up for that. Austin and Rude go to the outside to regroup with Paul Lee. Back in, Rude with a hammerlock. Josh with a back elbow and an arm drag into an arm bar on Rude. Austin tagged in. He comes in and Josh hits him with an arm drag into an arm bar. Austin trying to get back to his feet. He does, and they go back and forth in the ring. Josh reverses an Irish whip. Austin comes back with a shoulder block. Austin runs the ropes, but gets caught by Josh. He drops Austin throat first on the top rope. Josh with the clothesline to knock Austin down. Josh gets a 2 count. Josh with a wrist lock and tags Hammer in. Hammer with a shot and an armbar into a hammer lock. Austin makes it back to his feet. Hammer with a wrist lock. Josh tagged back in. Josh with a kick to the stomach. Austin with a couple of shots, and Josh reverses an Irish whip. Josh drops his head early, and Austin hits him with a kick to the face. Austin goes for a scoop slam. Josh slips behind him and goes for a roll-up, but as he pushes forward, Austin runs him into a clothesline from Rude in the corner. Rude tagged in. Rude goes up top and hits a clubbing blow to the head. He gets a 2 count. Rude with a double thrust to the throat of Josh. Rude tags Austin back in. Rude and Austin double team to get Josh into the corner. Austin with a series of kicks to the midsection of Josh. Austin choking Josh on the second rope. Referee Nick Patrick makes him stop, so Austin goes over and hits Hammer, allowing Rude to continue to choke Josh in a brilliant use of double teaming as a Paulie sucks chant goes out. Hammer tries to come in, but is cut off by Patrick, allowing Austin to hit a leapfrog body guillotine on Josh. Austin gets a close 2 count. Austin with a front face lock and Rude tagged in. Rude with a shot, but Josh comes back with a chop. Rude with a snap mare. Rude with a rear chin lock as Hammer tries to get the crowd to rally around Josh. Josh gets back to his feet, and Paulie gets up on the apron to distract Patrick. Austin comes in and hits Josh from behind. Austin tagged in and gets an Irish whip and a back elbow. Austin kicking Josh while he is down. Austin throws Josh to the outside. Rude attacks Josh on the outside. He runs Josh into the barricade. Back in, Austin with a snap mare as both locker rooms are shown looking at the match in the back. Austin with a rear chin lock. Josh gets to his feet as the fans start to get behind him. Josh breaks the hold. Josh with an elbow to the stomach. Josh breaks away and catches Austin with a power slam. Josh goes to drop an elbow and Austin moves. Austin choking Josh on the second rope. Paulie comes over to hold Josh as Patrick tries to get them off of Josh. Rude distracts Patrick as Austin goes for another leapfrog body guillotine as Paulie holds Josh, but Josh moves and Austin hits Paulie instead. The crowd cheers wildly as Paulie falls off of the apron. Austin tries to stop Josh from tagging Hammer in, but he does, and Hammer starts punching Austin. Hammer with an Irish whip and a power slam. Hammer follows that up with a belly-to-back suplex. Hammer with another Irish whip and a shoulder tackle. Hammer goes for the pin, but Rude comes in and breaks it up. All 4 men in now. Referee Nick Patrick gets Rude and Josh out. Hammer with an Irish whip and a backdrop to Austin, but Austin tagged Rude in when he hit the ropes. Rude hits Hammer with a knee to the stomach and hits a rude awakening on Hammer to get the pin. Jim and Tony covered the replay of the end of the match before throwing it to Eric and company to draw the next match. Dustin Rhodes and Richard Morton versus Larry Zbyszko and Elegante. Zbyszko comes down with Medusa. Rhodes and Zbyszko start. A Larry Sucks chant goes out. They lock up and back to a corner. They break, and Zbyszko yelling at referee Randy Anderson that Rhodes didn't break soon enough. Zbyszko goes over and tries to explain to Elegante what he is trying to do, and Tony surmises that Elegante doesn't know what he is saying. Zbyszko and Rhodes lock up again. Rhodes with a side headlock. Zbyszko pushes off. Rhodes comes back with a shoulder block. Zbyszko comes back with a hip lock. Rhodes kicks Zbyszko off. Rhodes goes back to the side headlock. Zbyszko pushes off again. Crisscross. Rhodes with a drop down and then a knee to Zbyszko in his stomach. Morton tagged in. Elegante tagged in. Morton turns around and tags Rhodes back in. Elegante goes to grab Rhodes, who ducks out of the way. Morton gets in to hit Elegante, who picks Morton up and slams him hard back to the mat. Morton crawls back to his corner. Rhodes with a drop kick to Elegante to no effect. Rhodes then tries for a drop toe hold and Elegante won't go down. Zbyszko yelling at Elegante, who scoop slams Rhodes. Elegante with a wrist lock and Zbyszko tagged in. Zbyszko comes in with a series of forearms to Rhodes. Zbyszko with a scoop slam and a double boot stomp to the sides of Rhodes' face. Zbyszko with a swinging neck breaker. He goes for the cover, but Morton breaks up the pin attempt. Zbyszko with a front face lock. He tries to push Rhodes towards the corner that Elegante is in. Zbyszko goes for a scoop slam, but Rhodes gets him in a small package for a 2 count. Zbyszko with a spinning heel kick to Rhodes. Zbyszko screams at Elegante to put his knees up so Zbyszko can run Rhodes into it. Elegante won't do it and starts to scream at Medusa at ringside, who has been yelling at him. Zbyszko then kicks Rhodes into the corner and starts to choke him. Rhodes comes back with an elbow to the head of Zbyszko. Rhodes with a series of bionic elbows to Zbyszko to try to get out of the corner. Zbyszko rakes Rhodes' eyes, but Rhodes reverses a corner whip and hits Zbyszko with a corner clothesline. Rhodes then hip locks Zbyszko out of the corner. Rhodes then signals for the bulldog and goes for it, but Zbyszko pushes off. Elegante tagged in. Zbyszko yells at Elegante to take advantage of Rhodes, and Elegante comes over to Zbyszko and they start to argue. Zbyszko slaps Elegante and drops down off of the apron, but Elegante grabs Zbyszko by the head to bring him back up on the apron. Elegante throws Zbyszko into the ring. Elegante Irish whips Zbyszko into a double drop kick by Morton and Rhodes gets the pin. Elegante and Rhodes hug after the match. He goes to shake Morton's hand, but Morton says heck no and leaves the ring. Jim and Tony cover the ending of the match, and then Eric, Missy, and Magnum pull the next match. Bill Kazmaier and Jushin Liger versus Diamond Dallas Page and Mike Graham. As they show the wrestlers in the locker room, Zbyszko is shown coming back from the ring and he pushes Morton. He then kicks the lockers. The bell rings as both teams try to figure out who is going to start, as Jim tells us that Liger pinned Pillman in a controversial match Christmas night to win the light heavyweight championship. Liger and Graham start. Liger starts with a spinning heel kick attempts, but Graham stays away. They circle each other. They lock up and Graham with a fireman's carry takeover. Graham with an armbar. Liger turns in towards the pressure to try to alleviate it some. He gets back to his feet and reverses the move into a wrist lock on Graham. Liger with a hammer lock and Graham with a hip lock to get out of the move. They circle each other again. They lock up and drive to a corner. Break clean and Graham with a shot to Liger's midsection. Graham with a corner whip, and Liger goes to the corner and jumps up and head scissors Graham over. Graham up in the ropes as he falls and rolls to the outside to regroup. Graham gets back in the ring. Liger with an Irish whip. Liger goes for a back elbow, but Graham just stops and Liger falls to the mat. Graham gets a 2 count. Kazmaier tagged in. They circle each other. They lock up, and Graham goes for a wrist lock, and Kazmaier just pushes off. They circle each other again and lock up. Graham with a side headlock. Kazmaier picks Graham up and throws him across the ring. Graham gets back to his feet, and DDP tagged in. DDP asks for a test of strength and then kicks Kazmaier in the stomach. He hits Kazmaier with a forearm to the back and goes to scoop slam Kazmaier, but can't pick him up. DDP then pushes away. Kazmaier does the bring it gesture to DDP. DDP attempts to rush Kazmaier, who shoulder blocks DDP. He tries it again and ducks a clothesline attempt from Kazmaier. DDP comes back off the ropes and Kazmaier picks him up and slams DDP down to the mat. Kazmaier rushes DDP, who throws Kazmaier over the ropes, but Kazmaier holds on and skins the cat to come back in. Kazmaier then clotheslines DDP and gets a 2 count. A gut wrench suplex gets another 2 count for Kazmaier. Kazmaier with a scoop slam. Kazmaier goes up top for a splash, but DDP moves. DDP kicking Kazmaier. DDP with the rear chinlock. DDP then chokes Kazmaier on the top rope for a couple of 4 counts, but breaks before the 5. DDP then jumps over the top rope and guillotines Kazmaier on it like Randy Savage does. Kazmaier tags Liger in. DDP with a knee to the stomach and a side Russian leg sweep to Liger. He gets a 2 count. DDP with an Irish whip. Liger comes back with a spinning heel kick. Graham tagged in. Liger knees him in the stomach as soon as Graham gets in. Liger with a side headlock. Graham pushes off. Liger comes back with a shoulder block. Liger runs the ropes. Graham with a drop down. Liger slides between his legs. Graham catches one of Liger's legs, so Liger hits him with an enziguri. Liger rushes Graham, who backdrops Liger over the top rope, but Liger lands on his feet on the apron and runs his shoulder into Graham. Liger then splashes Graham over the top rope for a 2 count. Graham backs to a corner, and Liger follows him in and gets a knee to the stomach. Liger with a side headlock and runs Graham into Kazmaier's boot. Kazmaier then tagged in. They circle each other. Graham goes for a single leg takedown. Kazmaier just tosses a Graham across the ring. They circle each other again and lock up. Kazmaier with a wrist lock. Graham goes and pulls Kazmaier and makes the tag to DDP. DDP with some forearms to Kazmaier, and Kazmaier reverses an Irish whip and hits a clothesline to DDP. DDP comes back with an eye rake and goes for a scoop slam, but Kazmaier falls on DDP and gets a 2 count. Graham tagged back in. They lock up, and Kazmaier with a wrist lock. Liger tagged in and comes off with a chop to Graham's arm off the top rope. Liger with an Irish whip and gets a drop toe hold on Graham and gets Graham up in a Mexican surfboard. Graham won't give up, and Liger lets go. Graham pushes off and gets a rolling Boston Crab on Liger. Liger counters into a sit-out, and Graham counters that into a sunset flip, but Liger is under the ropes. Graham pulls back and gets a 2 count. They circle each other and shake hands. They lock up, and Liger with a side headlock and a takeover. He gets a 2 count. Graham reverses into a head scissors. Liger twists around and gets a pinning predicament that Graham bridges out of. Graham with a rollover and a backslide. He gets a 2 count. Kazmaier tagged back in. DDP also tagged back in. They lock up, and Kazmaier with a wrist lock. DDP rakes the eyes to get out of the hold. DDP with an Irish whip and a back elbow. That knocks DDP down, and he tags Graham back in. Liger also tagged back in. They lock up. Liger with a spin-through kick to knock Graham down. Liger then hits a flurry of kicks that is just impressive to see. Liger brings Graham over to the corner, and Kazmaier tagged in. Liger holds Graham for Kazmaier to hit a shot to the midsection. Kazmaier picks Graham up and just throws him across the ring. He gets a 2 count. DDP tagged back in. DDP with a knee to the stomach and a front face lock to Kazmaier. He then hits a forearm to Kazmaier. Graham tagged back in. DDP holds on to Kazmaier for Graham to hit him with a kick to the midsection. Another kick, and Graham gets a front face lock. Kazmaier picks Graham up while still in the move and tags Liger in. Kazmaier sets Graham down, and Liger and Graham circle each other. The crowd cheers the sportsmanship. They lock up and drive back to the corner. Liger with a shot, and Graham reverses a corner whip. Graham charges in with a flying knee lift, but Liger moves and Graham spills out to the floor. Liger then flips over the top rope to land on Graham, and the crowd loves the move. Liger then gets back in the ring. The crowd still cheering. Graham gets back up on the apron, and Liger suplexes Graham back into the ring. He gets a 2 count. Liger with a backbreaker. Liger hits a second rope moonsault on Graham. He gets a 2 count, but DDP comes in to break up the pin. Kazmaier also comes in. All 4 in, and Kazmaier and DDP fighting in one corner. Liger runs Graham into the opposite turnbuckle. Liger and Kazmaier run Graham and DDP into each other. Kazmaier then throws Liger on DDP to get the pin, even though Graham was the legal man. I hate stuff like that. Jim and Tony watch a replay of the end of the match. Super Brawl 2 ad. The next match is drawn. It is Lex Luger and Arn Anderson with Harley Race versus the Z-Man Tom Zink and Terrence Taylor. Anderson and Zink start. Anderson goes over and knocks Taylor off of the ropes. They lock up. Anderson with a side headlock, and Zink pushes off. Zink with a drop down, and Anderson grabs the ropes to avoid being punched. Anderson then rolls to the outside, and Taylor punches him as payback for knocking Taylor off of the apron earlier. Taylor then throws Anderson back in the ring. Zink punches Anderson, who turns around, and Taylor then punches him. Zink then goes to kick Anderson, who catches Zink's leg, so Zink hits Anderson with an enziguri. Zink goes for a pin, but Luger breaks it up. Now all 4 men in and fighting. Anderson and Luger both get knocked down, so they roll to the outside to regroup. Race complaining to the referee. Anderson then tags Luger in. They circle each other and lock up. Luger with a side headlock. Zink with body shots to Luger. They drive back to the ropes, and Zink pushes off. Luger comes back with a shoulder block. Luger then runs the ropes, and Zink with a drop down, a hip lock, and a drop kick to Luger. Luger gets back up, and Zink hits him with an arm drag. Into an arm bar for Zink. Luger gets back to his feet. Zink with a wrist lock, and Taylor tagged in. Taylor with a kick to the stomach and picks the wrist lock up. Luger with a shot to the face to try to get out of the move, and Taylor cranks it on harder. Luger with another shot and a series of shots to Taylor. Luger gets an Irish whip. Taylor ducks a clothesline attempt and a gorilla slam to Taylor. Luger then flexes to the crowd. He picks Taylor up, and Taylor uses the top of his own head to do a jawbreaker on Luger. Then a kick and a snap mare to Luger. Then a running reverse snap mare to Luger. That gets a 2 count. Running neck breaker to Luger. Gets another 2 count. Taylor with a hammerlock to Luger. Luger goes down to one knee. Luger back to the ropes and hits Taylor with a back elbow. Taylor falls to the apron. Luger comes over and Taylor runs his shoulder into Luger's midsection and tries for a sunset flip. Luger struggling to stay up and punching Taylor. As Luger is falling over, he tags Anderson in. Anderson drives a knee into the back of Taylor. Anderson then drops a knee on Taylor. He then runs Taylor face first along the top rope. Anderson then runs Taylor into the corner and rams his fist into Taylor's stomach. Taylor reverses a corner whip, but Anderson hits him with a back elbow when he charges in. Anderson goes to snap mare Taylor, who catches Anderson's arms and goes for a backslide. Taylor gets a 2 count. Anderson gets up and Taylor hits him with a clothesline. That gets a 2 count. Taylor with a wrist lock. Anderson reverses a corner whip, and Taylor hits a back elbow when Anderson charges in. Taylor then goes up to the second rope and hits a reverse splash on Anderson. That gets another 2 count. Taylor gets a wrist lock on Anderson and tags Zink in. Taylor holds Anderson for Zink to hit a crossbody on Anderson. He gets a 2 count. Anderson with a shot to Zink. They go back and forth in a corner, and Zink mounts the corner and punches Anderson. Anderson lifts Zink off of him and then collapses to the mat. Zink runs the ropes, but Race trips him and he runs into a DDT by Anderson. Anderson goes to pin Zink, but Taylor breaks up the pin and all 4 men in the ring now. Patrick gets Taylor out of the ring, allowing Anderson to run Zink into Luger's knee. Luger tagged in and he suplexes Zink. He gets a 2 count. Luger hits Zink with a couple of knee lifts. He then runs Zink into Anderson's boot and tags Anderson in. Anderson runs Zink along his boot laces. Anderson with an Irish whip and drops his head early, and Zink runs Anderson's head into the mat. Zink crawling to try to tag Taylor in, but Anderson tags Luger in and he cuts Zink off. Luger with a shot to Zink. Luger with an Irish whip and a power slam. He gets a 2 count. Luger tags Anderson in and holds Zink for Anderson to hit a knee to Zink's stomach. JR works in Luger's college credentials, so take a shot if you're drinking at home. Anderson with a corner whip, but Zink gets his knee up on the charge. Anderson goes in again and Zink gets his boot up. Zink goes for a double axe handle off of the second rope, but Anderson hits him with a shot to the stomach. Anderson then goes up to the second rope, but as he comes off, Zink gets his boots up. Anderson collapses. Zink and Anderson both crawling to tag. Both Taylor and Luger tagged in. Taylor hits a series of shots in a forearm. Taylor then cleaning house on both of his opponents. Luger misses a clothesline when Taylor ducks. Taylor then atomic drops Luger into Anderson and rolls Luger up for a 2 count. Taylor with a crossbody for another 2 count. Taylor off the ropes. Luger goes for a hip lock, but Taylor blocks it into a backslide. Gets yet another 2 count. Luger comes back with a thumb to the eyes. Luger with an Irish whip drops his head early. Taylor with a gut-wrench powerbomb. Anderson breaks up the pin attempt. All 4 men in. Nick Patrick trying to get Zink out, allowing Anderson and Luger to try to double suplex Taylor, but Zink breaks loose and starts kicking both men. Patrick gets Zink out and Taylor with an inside cradle, but Patrick was distracted. Luger kicks out. Luger hits a pile driver on Taylor to get the pin. Jim and Tony look at a replay of the finish and show who has advanced to Battle Bowl so far before throwing it to Eric for the drawing of the next match. Ricky Steamboat and Todd Champion versus Cactus Jack and Buddy Lee Parker. Parker stands up before his name is called. Abdullah the Butcher attacks Parker before he can get out of the locker room. He runs Parker into some lockers and attacks him with a chair. He then runs his head into the lockers several times. Abdullah then breaks a broom over Parker's back. Cactus Jack says, "Where's my partner?" and laughs when Abdullah comes out. The officials grab Abdullah and try to stop him from coming in. Abdullah finally goes towards the back. Parker makes his way out and Abdullah attacks him with a stick on the rampway. Referee Randy Anderson trying to start the match. Steamboat and Cactus Jack start. They lock up and Cactus Jack with a knee to the stomach. Back and forth in the middle of the ring. They trade shots. Cactus Jack is choking Steamboat on the top rope. They trade blows in the corner. Cactus Jack with a series of left hands. Cactus Jack biting Steamboat. Cactus Jack with a series of shots to get Steamboat down. Parker has rolled to the rampway. Cactus Jack gets a 2 count. Steamboat coming back with a series of chops. Back and forth. Champion momentarily distracts referee Randy Anderson so he doesn't see Cactus Jack throw Steamboat over the top rope, but Steamboat holds on and skins the cat to get back in. Cactus Jack goes to clothesline Steamboat out, but Steamboat ducks and Cactus Jack goes spilling to the outside. Cactus Jack turns around and Steamboat dives through the ropes onto Cactus Jack. Steamboat then runs Cactus Jack into the barricade. Both men get back in the ring, and someone from the audience says, "Rip his head off, Steamer." Back and forth in the middle of the ring again. Cactus Jack with an Irish whip and misses a clothesline when Steamboat ducks and Steamboat slips through Cactus Jack's legs. Steamboat with a back thrust kick. Steamboat with an enziguri. Champion tagged in. Steamboat with a front face lock to hold Cactus Jack for Champion to hit with a double axe handle from the second rope. Cactus Jack tries to kick Champion away. Cactus Jack with a headbutt. Cactus Jack with a forearm to Champion. Champion with a series of shots to Cactus Jack's stomach. Champion with a scoop slam. Champion follows that up with a leg drop, and I want to believe that Hulk Hogan is watching at home and is very concerned. Champion with a rear chin lock on Cactus Jack as Parker is inching his way towards the ring as a buddy chant goes out. Cactus Jack gets to the ropes and hits Champion with an elbow. Cactus Jack with a right hand, but Champion gets him in a bear hug. Cactus Jack rakes the eyes to get out of the move. Cactus Jack throws Champion to the outside. Cactus Jack then hits the elbow from the second rope. He then runs Champion into the barricade head first. Champion trying to fight back, but Cactus Jack kicks him in the ribs and runs him back into the ring. Cactus Jack with a kick and a snapmare. Cactus Jack with a headlock as they show that Parker has made it to the empty ring. Champion gets back to his feet and hits some elbows to try to get out of the move. Cactus Jack comes back with a forearm to Champion. Cactus Jack off the ropes, and Champion hits him with a power slam. He gets a 2 count. Champion goes for a leg drop, but Cactus Jack moves as Parker finally makes it to his corner. Cactus Jack goes up top to come off with a double axe handle, but Champion hits him in the stomach when he comes off. Champion with a series of punches and a side headlock. Cactus Jack pushes off. They collide in the ring. Cactus Jack tags Parker and hip locks him into the ring. Steamboat also tagged in. Steamboat with an Irish whip and a power slam. A buddy chant goes out again. Steamboat hits a crossbody to get the pin. Jim and Tony replay the end of the last match as officials help Parker out of the ring. The next match is then pulled. Sting and Abdullah the Butcher versus Brian Pillman and Bobby Eaton. Abdullah comes out smiling and then he attacks Sting. He keeps hitting Sting with his stick on the rampway. Pillman comes from the back and tackles Abdullah to get him off of Sting. Pillman then grabs the stick and hits Abdullah with it. Eaton then comes out and attacks Pillman. All 4 men fighting now. Abdullah knocks Pillman off of the ramp onto the barricade. Abdullah comes down after Pillman as Eaton has Sting on the ramp. Eaton throws Sting inside the ring. Eaton attacks the leg of Sting. He then rushes Sting and Sting backdrops him onto the ramp. Sting then splashes Eaton out on the rampway to a big pop from the crowd. Sting with a standing dropkick on Eaton. He then attacks Eaton from behind. Sting then throws Eaton back in the ring. The crowd gets behind Sting. Eaton begging off in the ring. Eaton with an eye rake to Sting. Eaton with a wrist lock to Sting and then goes over and slaps Pillman. Sting reverses the wrist lock. Abdullah comes in and hits Sting, his own partner. Eaton with a thumb to the eyes of Sting. Eaton with a snapmare. He gets a 2 count. Sting gets to his feet and hits Eaton in the ribs with some elbows. Abdullah has grabbed a pencil from the announce desk. Eaton drops a knee on Sting and then runs Sting into Abdullah's pencil even though Abdullah is Sting's partner. Pillman comes in and drop kicks Abdullah off of the apron to the roar of the crowd. Eaton knocks Sting to the mat with a shot. Sting out on the apron. Eaton trying to slingshot Sting back in, but Sting blocks it with shots to Eaton. Sting slingshots Eaton to the outside. They fight on the floor. Eaton rakes the eyes. Sting responds with a slap. Sting runs Eaton into the ring post. Pillman body slams Abdullah in the ring, but you don't see it because the camera was focused on Eaton and Sting. Pillman then splashes Abdullah from the top rope. Eaton goes for the tag, but Pillman won't tag him in. Eaton tags Abdullah in, but of course referee Mike Atkins doesn't allow it. Sting and Eaton lock up again, and Sting goes back to a wrist lock, into an arm lock. Eaton with a knee to the stomach, an Irish whip, and an abdominal stretch. Sting reverses into a tombstone piledriver attempt, but Eaton blocks it. All 4 men in now. Pillman battling Abdullah in the corner. Sting with an Irish whip and a backdrop to Eaton. Atkins trying to get Pillman out of the ring, allowing Abdullah to grab Sting and hold for Cactus Jack to try to come in and hit Sting. But Sting ducks and Abdullah gets hit instead. Sting gets a crossbody off the top to Eaton to win, and Pillman celebrates despite not winning the match. Jim and Tony replay the ending before coming out of the replay, and Cactus Jack and Abdullah are fighting on the rampway. Security keeps trying to break them up, but they keep breaking loose. Cactus Jack breaks loose and bites Abdullah in the head. They elbow the security guy to try to get at each other. They start to fight the security guys who are trying to keep them separated. Security finally gets them separated. They fight over to where Gordon Soley and Lance Russell are commentating on the WCW hotline. Jim and Tony recap what has happened so far before throwing it to Eric and company to choose the next match. Rick Steiner and the Night Stalker subbing for the Diamond Stud versus Big Van Vader and Mr. Hughes. Referee Nick Patrick sends the Diamond Stud back to the dressing room. Steiner and Vader start. They lock up. Vader pushes off. They lock up again. Vader with some right-hand shots to Steiner. More head and body shots to Steiner. And Vader with a short clothesline. Vader with an Irish whip and a body tackle to knock Steiner down. JR works in their athletic careers, so take a shot if you're drinking at home. Vader with some forearms and elbows to Steiner in the corner. Vader with a corner whip, but Steiner comes out with a Steiner line to knock him down. Then Steiner hits Vader with an overhead belly-to-belly suplex. The crowd loves it. Steiner then with another Steiner line to knock Vader to the outside. Steiner then goes outside and jumps on Vader and punches him. Steiner with some right-hand shots to Vader. Vader comes back with a clothesline. Vader picks Steiner up and runs him into the ring post. Vader then throws Steiner back into the ring by his headgear. Vader gets up on the apron to try to suplex Steiner to the outside. Steiner blocks it twice and finally gets Vader up and over on a suplex. Double count going. They lock up in the corner and Hughes tagged in. Hughes with several right hands to Steiner. Hughes with a scoop slam and drops an elbow on Steiner and gets a 2 count. Steiner reverses an Irish whip and backdrops Hughes. He gets a 2 count. Hughes with some more right hands to Steiner. Hughes with a series of knees to Steiner in the corner. He then chokes Steiner on the second rope for a 4 count. Hughes with a corner whip, but Steiner moves and hits Hughes with a belly-to-back suplex. He gets a 1 count. Steiner with an Irish whip, and they collide in the ring. Night Stalker reaches over and tags himself in and then climbs to the top. He then clotheslines Hughes from the top rope, driving Hughes back into his own corner, and Vader tagged in. Hughes rushes Night Stalker, who ducks a clothesline attempt, and Steiner guillotines Hughes on the top rope. Night Stalker ignoring Vader, who hits Night Stalker and knocks him down. Steiner on the top rope and hits a bulldog on Hughes and goes to pin him, but they aren't the legal men. Vader splashes Night Stalker and pins him. Jim and Tony show the end of the match. Another Super Brawl 2 ad. The next match is drawn. Scott Steiner and Firebreaker Chip versus Johnny B. Bad and Arachnaman. Bad and Chip start. They circle each other and lock up. Back to the ropes. Bad with an Irish whip. Chip runs the ropes. Bad with drop downs and leapfrogs to avoid being hit. Chip hits a couple of arm drags to Bad. JR works in Bad's boxing career, so take a shot if you're drinking at home. Chip yells out, "Hey, you want to box?" Bad hits him with some stiff body punches. Bad with an Irish whip and a back elbow. Bad then drops an elbow on Chip. He gets a 1 count. Bad goes back to body punches. Bad with some more body shots. He corner whips Chip, who comes back with a reverse crossbody. He gets a 2 count. Chip with a side headlock into a wrist lock. Arachnaman tagged in. Chip puts him in an armbar. Steiner tagged in. The crowd goes crazy. Steiner with a fireman carry takeover into an armbar. Arachnaman gets up and pushes Steiner off. Steiner runs the ropes, and Arachnaman with drop downs and leapfrogs to avoid getting hit. He tries for another leapfrog, but Steiner catches and power slams him. Steiner with an Irish whip and a backdrop. Steiner with a clothesline that sends Arachnaman to the outside. He gets back in and tags Bad. They lock up and drive back to the ropes. Bad with a big right hand to knock Steiner down. Steiner comes back with a kick to the stomach. Steiner with an Irish whip. He drops his head too early, and Bad leapfrogs him, turns around, and hits Steiner with a big right hand to knock him down. Steiner comes back with a double leg takedown. Steiner picks Bad up and runs him into the corner post. Steiner picks Bad up and slams him hard to the mat. Chip tagged in. Snapmare to Bad. Chip with a headlock. Bad reverses it into a hammerlock. Chip spins out into a wrist lock on Bad. Bad reverses the wrist lock and works on the arm. Arachnaman tagged in. Arachnaman with an arm bar on Chip. Arachnaman pushes off. Chip comes back with an arm drag takeover. Steiner tagged in. Steiner with a snapmare to Arachnaman. Bad tagged in, and Steiner attacks him with forearms as soon as he comes through the ropes. Steiner with an Irish whip and a big clothesline. Steiner with a double underhook powerbomb. Chip tagged in. He goes for a move, but stops, and Bad tags Arachnaman in. That was a weird moment. Chip reverses a hammerlock, and Arachnaman hits a back elbow to get out of the move. Arachnaman runs Chip into a turnbuckle. Arachnaman with a series of forearms in the corner. What I find interesting about Arachnaman is that anyone can see that it's obviously a Spider-Man ripoff. Marvel lawyers didn't have to work very hard on this one, yet Marvel and WCW went ahead and did a comic book together. Chip counters and reverses and hits some forearms of his own. Chip with a corner whip and goes to splash Arachnaman, who ducks, and Chip goes up and over out onto the apron. Chip drives his shoulder into Arachnaman and slides back in. He hooks Arachnaman's legs and gets a 2 count. Arachnaman with a knee lift. That gets a 2 count. Arachnaman with a headlock. Chip gets back to his feet as the crowd starts to get behind him. Arachnaman with an Irish whip and hits a drop kick. He goes for another drop kick, but Chip catches the legs. He turns Arachnaman over into the Boston Crab. Arachnaman powers out of the move and goes to pin Chip, but Chip hooks Arachnaman's legs and gets a 2 count. Arachnaman gets a front face lock on, tags Bad in, and Bad hits Chip with several body shots. Bad with a front face lock and a couple of forearms to Chip as a Johnny chant goes out. Bad with a snap mare. Bad with a reverse chin lock. Steiner trying to motivate Chip from the apron. Chip's arm falls twice, but not the third time. Arachnaman tagged back in. Arachnaman with a knee to Chip's back. Chip gets a side headlock. Arachnaman pushes off. They both run the ropes. Chip with a blind tag to Steiner. Steiner gets in and hits a Steiner line to Arachnaman and a tilt-a-whirl suplex to Arachnaman. He then scoop slams Bad when he comes in. Steiner with an Irish whip to Arachnaman, drops his head, and Arachnaman kicks Steiner in the face. Arachnaman comes off the top rope, but Steiner catches him. Steiner with an overhead belly-to-belly suplex to get the pin. Jim and Tony go over the end of the match. The final match is drawn. Ron Simmons and Thomas Rich versus Steve Armstrong and PN News. Rich and Simmons arguing over who is going to start. Simmons and Armstrong start, and Armstrong just turns his back on Simmons. Simmons taps him on the shoulder, and Armstrong backs away. Simmons with a kick to the stomach and a gorilla press slam. Simmons with some forearms and an Irish whip. He drops his head early, and Armstrong hits him with a forearm to the back. Armstrong with an Irish whip. Simmons ducks a clothesline attempt and comes back with a shoulder block. Simmons with a wrist lock and a shot to the triceps. Rich tagged in. He Irish whips Armstrong and hits him with a shot. Armstrong reverses a corner whip and follows it up with a kick to the stomach. Another kick and a right hand to Rich in the corner. Armstrong with an elbow to Rich. Rich reverses a corner whip and backdrops Armstrong. Rich misses an elbow to Armstrong. Armstrong with an arm drag. News tagged in. Armstrong holds Rich for News to hit, but News says let him go because he doesn't want to take a cheap shot. They lock up. Rich tries for a slam, but can't pick News up. News then scoop slams Rich. They lock up, and Rich with a side headlock. News picks Rich up and throws him off. A "We Want Ron" chant goes out. News throws Rich off again. Simmons tagged in. News and Simmons slap hands and then circle each other. They lock up. Drive back to the corner. Break clean. They circle each other again. Another lock up. Back to the ropes to the corner, and News with some shots and a corner whip to Simmons. He then hits a big splash to Simmons in the corner. He goes for another splash, and Simmons catches him with a back elbow. Simmons with a bulldog. He gets a 2 count. Simmons with a big shoulder block, and he gets another 2 count. He runs the ropes, and News catches him with a clothesline. News with a body press to Simmons off the ropes. Gets a 2 count. Armstrong tagged in. A "We Want Tommy" chant goes out, and Rich is hesitant to make the tag. The crowd chant "Puss" at him. Tough crowd here tonight. Simmons and Armstrong lock up, and Simmons with a series of shots to Armstrong. Simmons with a wrist lock, and Rich finally tags in. Rich wraps his wrist tape around the throat of Armstrong to choke him. Rich with a corner whip, and Armstrong gets his boots up on the charge. Armstrong gets Rich down and starts to rip the tape off of Rich's wrist. He then uses the tape to choke Rich in the corner. Armstrong with a corner whip, and then clotheslines Rich with the wrist tape. Rich tags Simmons in. Simmons doesn't want to come in and argues with Rich in the corner. Armstrong jumps Simmons from behind. Armstrong with a big right hand to Simmons. Armstrong runs Simmons into the turnbuckle head first. Simmons reverses an Irish whip and hits Armstrong with a clothesline. He gets a 2 count. Rich tags back in and hits a belly-to-back suplex. Rich then hits a fist drop from the second turnbuckle. He then drops a knee on Armstrong. Rich with a corner whip, but Armstrong gets his boot up on the charge and then punches Rich. Armstrong runs Rich into News's knee and tags News in. News with an Irish whip and hits a flying clothesline. He gets a 2 count. Another "We Want Ron" chant goes out. Armstrong tagged back in. Armstrong goads Simmons in so that he can hit Rich while referee Mike Atkins gets Simmons out of the ring. Armstrong with a corner clothesline and flying splash to Rich. Armstrong with another clothesline. Rich moves when Armstrong goes for another splash. Rich goes to drop an elbow, but Armstrong moves and tags News in. Armstrong holds Rich for News to kick. News with a scoop slam. Armstrong tagged back in. He goes for a splash, but Rich gets his knees up. Double count going. Armstrong blocks a Rich shot and hits one of his own. Armstrong with a throat thrust to Rich. He then kicks Rich down in the corner. Armstrong chokes Rich down on the apron with his foot. Atkins counting him, but Simmons comes in to protest and breaks up the count as Atkins stops to get him out of the ring. News comes over and stops Armstrong from choking Rich, and the two teammates start to argue. Armstrong with a swinging neckbreaker. He gets a 2 count. The crowd is trying to get into the match by clapping. Armstrong with a rear chinlock. He then drives his knee into Rich's back. Rich gets up and hits a jawbreaker on Armstrong. Rich gets up and hits Armstrong with a forearm. Rich with a kick to Armstrong. Simmons tagged in. Simmons comes in and kicks Armstrong. He power slams Armstrong. News comes in and Simmons power slams him too. Armstrong rushes Simmons and Simmons hits him with a spine buster to get the pin. Jim and Tony replay the end of the match and then discuss Battle Bowl and how crazy Abdullah the Butcher has been all night. Eric, Missy, and Magnum then talk about who's going to be left standing before throwing it to Gary Michael Capetta. He goes over the rules to Battle Bowl before announcing the participants as they come out. Big Van Vader, Marcus Alexander Bagwell, Jimmy Garvin, Dustin Rhodes, Bill Kazmaier, Jushin Liger, Steve Austin, Richard Morton, Todd Champion, Abdullah the Butcher, Firebreaker Chip, Thomas Rich, Ron Simmons, Ricky Steamboat, Mr. Hughes, Scott Steiner, Lex Luger, Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, and Sting are the participants. The crowd goes crazy when Sting comes out. As soon as Sting gets in, people begin attacking each other. Forearms flying. Anderson and Steamboat battle out on the rampway and Anderson scoop slams Steamboat. Steamboat then atomic drops Anderson. Vader and Mr. Hughes dump Kazmaier into the space between the two rings. He gets back into the first ring. Steamboat and Austin pair off, as do Anderson and Sting. Vader nails Simmons, knocking him to the rampway. He then scoop slams Simmons on the rampway. Vader then goes for a splash, but Simmons moves. Simmons chops Vader and he falls back into the ring. Liger just hitting people and moving around. Champion choking Rich in the corner. It is hard to write what is happening because there are so many people in the ring. Vader headbutts Simmons down. Simmons nails Mr. Hughes. Rich and Rhodes are fighting in the corner. Austin chokes Sting on the ropes. Vader military presses Ricky Steamboat out of the ramp. Vader then drops an elbow on Steamboat. Vader then throws Steamboat back into the ring. Liger blasting away at Abdullah in one corner. Abdullah then attacks Kazmaier while Rude holds him. Rhodes climbs up top, but falls and crotches himself on the top rope. Rich is thrown to the second ring. Sting and Luger start fighting in the corner, and the crowd comes to life. Bagwell thrown into the second ring, and Rich attacks him right away. Bagwell and Rich going back and forth. Mr. Hughes attacking Steiner in ring 1. Mr. Hughes dumped out onto the ramp as Paulie comes over to bother Jim and Tony. Mr. Hughes throws Firebreaker Chip into the second ring. Rich runs Bagwell and Firebreaker Chip's heads together. Liger thrown to the second ring and Morton follows him over like an idiot. Morton comes off the top rope onto Liger, who catches Morton and power slams him. Liger with a rolling splash onto Morton. Liger with a second rope moonsault. Morton reverses a corner whip, but Liger gets his boot up on the charge. Liger with a modified victory roll. Morton ducks a spinning heel kick attempt. Liger hits him with a second attempt. Liger runs and crossbodies Morton, and they both go out over the top rope and are eliminated. Vader throws Rhodes to the outside and hits him with a double axe handle from the apron. Anderson and Steamboat just beating the hell out of each other. Mr. Hughes with a running dive to Simmons, who ducks, and Hughes lands in the second ring. Rich eliminated from Battle Bowl. Anderson and Steamboat are in ring 2, but you don't know how they got there, as the cameras are having a hard time tracking the action. Luger and Simmons fighting on the ramp. Garvin and Champion are thrown to the second ring. Anderson choking Steamboat on the ropes. Steiner and Austin tossed into ring 2. Champion with a flying corner splash to Mr. Hughes as he was attacking Bagwell. Garvin eliminated from Battle Bowl. Kazmaier and Abdullah eliminated to ring 2. Rude backdrops Simmons to ring 2. Luger ducks a Rhodes charge, and Rhodes lands in ring 2. Sting and Rude battling in ring 1 to the delight of the crowd. They go back and forth. They both go over into ring 2. Vader and Luger are the only ones left in ring 1. Vader body blocks Luger down to the mat. He then splashes Luger. Vader with a corner whip to Luger as Steamboat starts to go outside after Paul E., who runs away. Vader with a corner splash to Luger. Luger falls to the mat. Firebreaker Chip eliminated. Vader tries another corner splash, but Luger gets his boot up on the charge. Luger with a clothesline to Vader to knock him into ring 2. Luger is the winner of ring 1. Abdullah eliminated. Champion and Kazmaier both eliminated. Steiner with a modified camel clutch on Hughes as Sting is attacking Rude up against the bottom rope as Rude is down. Steamboat and Simmons try to eliminate Vader as Rude grabs Sting's legs to try to eliminate him. Anderson climbs up top, but Rhodes hits him with a shot and Anderson crouches himself on the top rope. Steamboat hits Vader with a top rope knife chop. Rhodes with a drop kick to eliminate Anderson. Rhodes hitting Austin with some elbows and Austin backdrops Rhodes out. Simmons hits Hughes with a crossbody and both fall to the outside and are eliminated. Bagwell eliminated by Austin and Sting and Steamboat double clothesline Vader to eliminate him. Steiner eliminated. Sting pairs off with Austin and Rude and Steamboat pair off. Rude and Austin go to corner whip Sting and Steamboat into each other, but Steamboat ducks and Sting clotheslines Rude. Steamboat chopping Austin. Sting corner whips Rude into Austin. Rude and Sting double reversal of the corner whip, allowing Sting to stinger splash Austin in the corner. Steamboat chops Rude. A thrust kick by Steamboat knocks Rude down. Sting runs Austin's face into the mat. Rude and Austin double team Sting in the corner. Steamboat runs Austin and Rude's heads together. Rude goes to clothesline Steamboat, who moves and Rude hits Austin to eliminate him. Rude goes to throw Steamboat out. Steamboat holds on, skins the cat to catch Rude with the head scissors to eliminate him. Rude grabs Steamboat by the legs to eliminate him, and Sting is the winner of ring 2. Rude then runs Steamboat into the barricade and comes back in and attacks Sting and hits a rude awakening on Sting. He then spits on Sting as the crowd starts booing. Steamboat rolls inside to check on Sting as Luger comes over from ring 1 to ring 2. Sting is trying to pull himself up by the ropes. Referee Nick Patrick forces Luger back to ring 1. Luger grabs Sting as he gets into ring 1. He hits Sting with a clothesline. Luger then mocks Sting's yell. Luger with an inverted atomic drop. Luger then runs and kicks Sting in the ribs, back and forth near the corner. Luger runs Sting along the top rope. Luger with a right hand to Sting's midsection in the corner. He then hits a forearm to Sting's back to knock him down. Luger then kicks him in the ribs and tells him to get up. Luger screams at Jim and Tony and then goes to throw Sting out. He throws him through the ropes to the ramp. Nick Patrick struggles to keep Luger away, allowing Race to attack Sting. Sting blocks a Race shot and scoop slams Race onto the ramp. Luger comes over, attacks Sting, and throws him off the rampway to the floor below. Luger goes to run Sting into the barricade, but Sting blocks it and runs Luger into the barricade head first. He runs Luger into the barricade again, and Luger falls down at ringside. They get back in the ring, and Sting is stomping Luger. Sting rubs Luger's face into the mat, and then rakes Luger's face. Sting tries to dump Luger over the top rope, but Luger holds on to the top rope. Sting punching and kicking Luger to try to get him off of the top rope. Race comes into the ring, and Sting suplexes him. Sting goes back to kicking Luger. Sting goes for the Stinger Splash, but but Luger moves, and Sting is balancing on the top rope. As Luger starts to get up, Sting falls back to the canvas. Luger goes to throw Sting out, but Sting holds on to the ropes. Sting attacks Luger with right hands and kicks. Sting hits a bulldog on Luger and the crowd comes to life. Sting clotheslines Luger, who holds on until Sting shoves him over, and Sting wins Battle Bowl. The crowd goes crazy. Sting collapses back on the mat as fireworks go off. Sting goes to leave and Race is yelling at Sting. Sting posing and screaming on the rampway. Jim and Tony recap Sting's victory. They then recap the night and sign off from Norfolk. We then get our end credits. Final thoughts. An interesting show concept that was just too long and boring on execution. Another Starrcade, another gimmick tournament. I would pass on this one unless you're a completist like me. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. I would really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey saying so long from stately Maine Manor.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.